So we have a special guest today. I met Will. I guess I'll introduce him in a minute.
There's one topic that I think is interesting we could discuss. I don't think we've ever talked about membership NFTs, utility NFTs,
Yeah.
proof collective, and all that stuff.
So this thought is brought to you by Flying Fish.
Are you drinking Flying Fish?
We're drinking Flying Fish today.
Good choice.
We got a nice variety pack. One of them, a very well-known one, is for Discord. So Discord, and this is a non-financial, non-artwork, very specific utility type of thing, and you can use it to grant roles automatically in Discord. And it's funny because this is probably the main way that people monetize Discord. Nobody knows Discord actually has their own way to monetize. Here's how it works. You get an NFT, and then you get roles. Server settings, roles. And so what you do is you set special roles like verified role, and then it will add people automatically into your role here if they own a specific NFT or certain NFTs. They're always centralized applications. So that means that the value is not on the blockchain. The value is always off the blockchain. The value is membership in this Discord, having this role, access to hidden channels. One of my former clients is Origins. Here's what it looks like when you pay for Origins. You get all of these other channels, and people pay a lot for that.
There are a bunch that are popping out. It's basically like a reinvented version of membership clubs, country clubs, or whatever.
I mean, isn't that Bored Apes?
Right, Bored Apes is going in that direction. And I think one of the interesting potential areas, because gating events, Discord, other services, a lot of that stuff, you could do it without blockchain, but one of the things that's interesting is the permissionless way that create interoperability. So you could target BYC holders and airdrop them basically an ad for whatever you want them to do. You could create a game that you need, you must have a BAYC token to play with. It's fun to think about.
It's good to talk through this because we want to recognize these business use cases, because a lot of people think blockchain is about blockchain. Blockchain is about business use cases that people just aren't using in other places. You will definitely see these things show up other places. So what's the difference between Twitter membership and Twitter Blue versus Bored Ape Yacht Club? About $300,000 for a membership?
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe if Twitter had Twitter Platinum, I would pay $1,000 a month for Twitter. And I'm not proposing what Twitter's going to do, but I'm just trying to imagine, how is it related?
Yeah. Good ideas for Elon.
Yeah, he did say he wants to charge governments and other people more. He said a modest amount, but if I bought Twitter, I would literally just take Twitter Blue and then have another one that's 100 times more and another 100 times more on top of that money, and just let people pay for it.
So you think the Bored Ape folks they're paying $300,000 more for the idea of decentralization?
My thesis, so I've talked about BAYC before. My thesis is that it's a Justin Bieber fan token. So people think that because certain specific celebrities own Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, that they have events. My thesis is that people think that they might run into one of these people at one of these events at some point in their life. Even if you don't personally like Justin Bieber, you have to appreciate that having a limited edition authorized Michael Jackson fan club token is worth a load of money.
I think Will's here.
Cool. All right, I see.
So sorry I'm late, y'all. I could not have had worse timing on some really just horrible news, but it's good to be here. I'm so honored.
Good to hear you, Will. All right. Good to catch up. I met Will in New York about a year ago. We might catch up again in a month.
I'm trying to make it out. I'm trying to make
Nice.
it.
So I met Will last month. He's a hustler. He's podcasting. He's got his heart into this scene. Basically, Will came in for the interview. We actually co-released an NFT together. That was my first. And what I like about Will is a lot of people just show up for New York or they show up for Miami and then they go back to their day job. and then they wait until they have an excuse to go get excited about something. Will's always excited about this. So that's why I'm honored to have Will on the show today. And you're actually our first guest in Community Service Hour. Will, we've been doing this since New York last time, every week on Tuesdays, 6 p.m. New York. What's good?
It is truly. I mean, I said it and I meant it. It's an honor to be here. Like, seriously. It was, when I realized I was late, I'll tell you one day what I was dealing with, and we'll look back on this fondly, but there were few things on this planet that could have made me late to this. It was inspiring to meet you, man. For those who don't know me, I was running around doing a run and gun documentary when we met, just trying to build my brand. And little did I know I was meeting blockchain revolutionary Super Saiyan. Excuse my language. I don't know how
we're good.
But it really meant a lot, man. It was like inspiring. It was a landmark for me. And you've changed so many lives with your contributions to the blockchain, man. It's crazy.
Thanks for checking in.
I love it. Let's go.
All right. Kainan Stewart, what's good? So we've got a technical question. Token URIs for files. Wondering what your intention is that the URIs pointing to a file will never change. So I want to have a function that allows the owner to change the URI. Or maybe it's a terrible idea, or maybe it's a good idea. This is a pretty common question. So what are people's feelings about what's the expectation? Like, is the expectation that the things you buy don't change, or that the things you buy, other people have permission to change the thing, but you don't? What's the expectation here? I mean, I'm going to turn that right over to Will.
So I think that it's multifaceted. That could be what you're going for, right? Is that by you making that purchase that it will be unchanged? Like that's a facet of being not flexible, right? But I think for other people, it's like that proof of ownership kind of conversation about like they might not be buying it for the fact that it won't change. They might be buying it to know they bought it from this person. I think there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why you could answer that question, but it's definitely one.
Right, so that's not a clear black and white answer, Will.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It could be, you could have a connection to the seller. You could have a connection to the item itself. There's multiple angles that you could kind of look at that. If that makes sense, if I'm answering it right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, we're all right here, so.
Yeah, and technically, I don't think what's in the URI, if that changes or not, necessarily matters much. Technically, what's always going to be there is that it's part of a collection. There's this history of it being purchased, through this chain of owners, and that's the thing that's actually we know is unchanged. I could launch an NFT collection where the URIs point to all the images of the Bored Ape Yacht Club images, and it could look exactly the same if people made their Twitter profiles with the NFTs that I created. But, technically it's not the same because it's not part of the official BYC collection. So what's in the URI, I don't know if it necessarily matters that much.
Good perspectives. I'm going to go for the nerd route for a second. Officially, you are allowed to change the URI. I'm going to be the rule reader here. Officially, everything that you have to do and everything you have to not do is spelled out in this piece of paper called EIP 721. It used to be called ERC. I guess they renamed it on me. ERC 721, we just gave you a list of things you have to do. And one of these glaring things that is missing is you do not need to keep a URI the same. There's nobody that says you need to keep URIs, and when you set them, they can't change. There is one minor note here. The token URI must be distinct URI for a given asset. Distinct is meant to mean that it's not duplicated. Yeah, there's nothing in here that says you can't change it. And in fact, people do change it. People do reveals. They'll point the URI to nothing, and then they'll point it to something. The second thing is the website could change. So, my favorite website is, Dogpile, right, for my search engine. And that's from 1990. And does Dogpile, I'm afraid to even type this in, but Dogpile is still a search engine. What about AltaVista? Now it's Yahoo. Now AltaVista is Yahoo, right? So if you previously, you thought like AltaVista.com was great, Well, and you hated Yahoo. Well, guess what? Now Alta Vista links to Yahoo. You could have made an Alta Vista NFT, and then bam, now it's not doing what you thought it did. And that's at no fault of the smart contract, because all the smart contract knows is this URI. Obviously, IPFS solves this problem. There's another EIP out there where what they do is, in addition to the metadata, the URI link, this is basically the same as IPFS. The content, you can't rug pull that. That pointed to content cannot change. And there's some other technology like CSS, web pages. They've got the same fear of rug pulling. And so they got all these standards. And now there's another standard, 1155. So let's look at how they do it. This event must emit when a URI is updated. So like ERC 721, you could change a URI and not even tell anybody. You could change all the URIs at once for the entire collection. And it was expected that people would want to do that at some point. Like you want to change a server or some legitimate reason. You can't do that with 1155. You can't just change all the tokens at once, because you would need to emit this event and you would need to do these things where it's anticipating that you could change these things. Is, some of these NFTs are inside of a game, right? This could be a sword, and the sword could get experience. You got Axie Infinity, right? So like you attack, you win, you get the EXP, you get experience points, right? That should be reflected in your metadata. Just like Banksy, right? He sold this thing, it went to auction, somebody bought it, and when the hammer dropped, the painting shredded.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
So we have the photo? Yeah, here it is. So, and this guy knows what's going on because he's laughing and he's staring at it, right? So Sotheby's, he's got the hammer, he hits it, and then bam, the painting gets shredded on the spot. This looks staged with this photo. This whole thing looks staged. Yeah, so somebody bid on that. Okay, so there will be dispute in the art world. Like some people are like, oh no, it's shredded. And other people are like, well, that's the successful execution of the art. You're never going to get a hard and fast rule on these things. The person who bought this painting right here, they might be pissed that they spent $25 million and got a bunch of shredded paper. Like they might not appreciate that. They might think it's fucking hilarious, right? So what's up, Stuart? What do you think? Yeah, OpenSea turning off his NFT. I mean, OpenSea is a US website and you can't put child porn on there. You can't put copies of things. If you put something up there and they get a DMCA notice or, any type of cease and desist, they're going to comply. OpenSea is a lot less decentralized and open than you might think. They're just like any other website. When the angry mobs come to Facebook because something happened in the news and they think it was motivated by Facebook, Facebook takes stuff down. When there's an angry mob comes for OpenSea, OpenSea will take stuff down. They're not special. I actually didn't know that they took down the Moxie NFT, but they take down a lot of things. If I buy a painting, am I responsible for looking after the painting? Should you be able to move it around to keep it safe? As the owner of an NFT, I should be able to move it to a different URI. Well, this is not technical nerd stuff. So like, what do you think about this? Some of these things are on IPFS, so you can't move them, they're permanent. But some of these things are hosted on websites. Should you be allowed to move it to somewhere else? I mean, you're the owner.
Yeah. It's like, I was thinking about this recently with the OK Bears, not OK Bears scenario that happened, where there was like the turn profile. One was on the Solana chain, and then another one turned the other way on the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah,
I think it's more so a morality thing to what people want to do with it. Like there are certain limitations with the technology, but I think a lot of the decision making comes down to like personal moral compass. People can participate in these things. They can purchase, like let's say in this scenario, right? OK Bears was not OK Bears. The IP for these images were owned by the individuals in the original ecosystem, right? You get the commercial rights to your OK Bear.
Yeah.
So it depends on the way that you look at it, right?
Yep.
Some people are going to look at this as, okay, the new ones are on a different chain, facing a different direction. It's a different project. It's a derivative. And now those rights for that project are different. The original holders are probably going to think through their eyes, this is their IP, it's their image turned. It really falls to the person to decide the way that they look at it. It's fascinating and it's difficult, but it's I think it's a personal decision, case by case. What you were saying is so valid. OpenSea being a U.S.-based company, they have to, like, their hands are kind of tied. They have to be centralized to a degree. But for true decentralization, it's like you get to decide. Like, the decision wouldn't be OpenSea taking it down. It would be the participants' decision if they want to involve themselves with that. If that makes sense. These are difficult questions, but I like them. Did you see what Vitalik said the other day about the contradictions that he stands at? He made a thread about this. This is one that some of these keep me out.
Nice. All right. Contradiction 1. Desire to see Ethereum become more Bitcoin-like and stable. And my perception there's getting to that point requires a lot of change and short-term change.
What are your thoughts on that?
Ethereum needs to stop changing shit and dragging everybody along that doesn't want to come along. There's only one change left that Ethereum needs. Stop burning fossil fuels, which is, Ethereum should be illegal for that reason alone. And then they're done. When you're a human and you work on something, it's hard to be like, I don't need a job anymore because the work doesn't need me. That's a hard thing to swallow, and Vitalik hasn't done it yet. Maybe we don't need version 2. Maybe the only thing we need is proof of stake, and you're done. Quit. Fire your programmers. There's no version 2. Bitcoin, what's so beautiful about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's terrible for a lot of reasons, but what's beautiful is there's no Bitcoin 2. And there's no committee, and there's no Illuminati, and there's no DAO hack. There's just Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin, there's a Litecoin. Yeah, those are forks. They're clearly not Bitcoin. Nobody's vying for the name Bitcoin. Ethereum is just constantly won't give up, and they feel like they need all this innovation.
So yeah, that's really interesting, actually, though. So you think once proof of stake were to come out, Ethereum would be perfect as is. But then why do you think people are trying to still make Bitcoin the universal standard? If it's so flawed, why wouldn't somebody make a better Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin specifically, my opinion is Bitcoin needs to become illegal in more countries. It's illegal in some countries. The governments need to say you can't just spend your electricity like this. I don't care if it's solar or pixie dust electricity. Even if you're spending your own solar energy that you make in your backyard, that should be not allowed.
Damn. Staking solves that?
Yeah. Proof of work should not be legal on Earth. And that's going to be decided government by government. But that's the only problem. So I think that Bitcoin eventually will become illegal just on the electricity usage alone. But then we will have Bitcoin 2, which will just be proof of stake. But from that point, I don't see any need for any changes, period. Contradiction 2. Fixed systems or constant live development. Same thing. My preference for reducing reliance on individuals to build fixed systems versus appreciation for live players moving the world forward. This is showing further that he doesn't understand decentralization or project management. Contradiction 3. Solidity versus fragility. I want to see Ethereum become L1 that can survive extreme circumstances. I don't see a contradiction here. Okay. Contradiction 4. People versus intellectual elite. Okay, now he's getting warmer. Contradiction between my love for things like decentralization and my perception that I agree more with the elites than with the people on many specific political issues. How is this related to anything?
They're contradictions you personally grapple.
Yeah, some people gotta.
It's a good place for people to really, because I think sometimes this is life. It's like you grapple with these contradictions that are, it's kind of, you got to make a choice.
And right, I can't on another man's feelings. Maybe this is a big contradiction for him, and I'm not getting it, which is fine too. Countries adopting cryptocurrencies, which is contradiction between my desire to see more countries adopting cryptocurrencies. Nice that he calls them radical political experiments, and my perception that governments are more likely to go all the way on things that are more centralized. Yeah, countries don't like not having control over their monetary system. That is these are easy questions. Okay, contradiction 6, cultural diversity and insanity. Contradiction between my desire to see more diversity in cultures and my perception that maintaining a culture distinct from the mainstream requires any type of insanity, something that I don't like. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of political tones here. How can I, this is called moral relativism and moral absolutism. So it's like, how can I be inclusive if I don't like other people's ideas? This is quite...
Dude, that's a hell of a contradiction, though. These are tough. I appreciate it.
I've fought through this one with my mom pretty hard. What is the difference? Should you really be open to other people with different views than yourself? Not really a Bitcoin thing. Okay. Contradiction 7. Speculation that pays for my experiments. I dislike many financial applications, specifically calling out $3 million apes, and my grudging appreciation for the fact that these things are a big part of what keeps the economy running. What are the ethics in the money comes in and you don't really like these things? I mean, I guess I got to feel bad. Maybe Vitalik is trying to tell us he's broke, but
isn't that kind of an attempt to be more decentralized? Because if he had maintained more power, it would have been a more centralized network, right?
Right. Okay. So where's all this development coming from? He's saying speculation that pays for his experiments. So he has a few tokens, but the value of the tokens go up because of $1 million apes, and so that's what's funding his development efforts. Okay. I mean, I can buy that. And then if there hadn't been $1 million apes, then Ethereum would be back at $100, and he wouldn't be able to afford people to work on his projects. All right, I'll go with you on that. Contradiction 8. Finance is still the main use. Okay, NFTs is the main use of blockchain. This is a big oversight that he has. My desire for cryptocurrencies to grow beyond finance. Cryptocurrencies are finance. And my perception that finance is still by far the most successful category of cryptocurrency, especially in the third world. What is a non-finance application of money? Maybe he's got some deeper understanding than I do of money. Number 9, simplifying the first layer or the entire ecosystem. Okay, this is a good one. My desire to simplify L1, which means Ethereum, as much as possible versus my desire to simplify L2, which is like, Polygon. Should Polygon really be a part of Ethereum or should it be separate? Because L1 exports its complexity to higher layers and then other people have to adopt. So this is actually a good question. This is a good technical question. And then here's a repeat of like 4 other ones. I think contradiction between my desire to be a positive sum mediating figure who can be friends with everyone and my desire to be strongly with good versus evil.
That one is tough.
Clearly this is keeping him up. Okay.
I'm with him though. That is the question that I often struggle with, which is like, how do you, because who are we to be pointing fingers at people like the age-old adage, casting a stone?
Yep.
You can't condemn someone for sinning when you yourself are a sinner. But at the same time, those who are silent in oppression are oppressors. So it's like I get where he's coming from with that one. It's really tough to toe that line. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
My opinion here is that there's just different kinds of people. Not like DNA-wise, but like it's hard to get people to switch from moral absolutism to moral relativism. So moral absolutism is there's good people and there's bad people, and I only talk to the good people, and the bad people will be damned. Moral relativism is there's a lot of souls on earth. I was born into this body. I could have born in any one of them. There's no such thing as good and evil. It's just that I was born into this soul, into someone else, instead of someone else's soul. If I think I'm better than someone else, well, they think they're better than me. That's not really productive. So you got to look at everything relatively through someone else's eyes to really get a perspective on morality. So those are 2 ways of looking at stuff.
I think that the difficulty for me lies, and the reason that I understood this contradiction so much, or like I resonated with it, is like once you come to terms with that reality, then how do you create change? Because if we're looking through everyone's eyes, everyone has a reason for everything. We would never get anything done.
Wrong. No.
If
you don't look through everyone's eyes, then you delude yourself into thinking that you will change people, when in fact
you gotta look through everyone's eyes. Right. Sorry, let me rephrase. That's the reality, right? You have to put yourself in other people's shoes so that you can start to create the change. But then creating the change is so difficult because most people haven't made a decision of which side they fall into.
Okay, yeah. So this is why children's stories are very clear on the good and the bad. So when you open the fairy tale, my daughter, she's 3. I opened this book for Super Mario Brothers, which is a pretty old school book. And it's got like Mario's smiling and Bowser's frowning. And that's how she knows which one's the good guy and which one's the bad guy. There's actually a photo in there where Bowser is not smiling, he's not frowning, but he's like stealing Princess Peach. And she doesn't know he's the bad guy because we were just playing on the Switch and like you can beat Bowser and he's not actually angry and he high fives with you and everything. She actually doesn't know he's the bad guy. But when we get to the back of this workbook, she's going to see he's always frowning and there's fire when he breathes. She's going to realize he's the bad guy. Children don't understand this idea. And so that's why children, we make it very clear to them, there's good and there's bad, because we don't have time to tell them about other people's perspectives. Now, because people in general are stupid, regardless of the audience, if you want to make big change, you've got to talk in those terms. This is what we're going to do because of ethics, because of whatever, we're going to do this. That should be good enough for people. But instead, you got to distill it for the really dumb people. Then you got to add this sentence at the end. And if you don't believe me, you're a bad guy. Like that's the sentence you got to end for politics.
Yeah, that's where it becomes problematic though for me, because it's like you could be totally right. You could be 100% saying the truth, but the second you point the finger at someone and call them a bad guy, they could be a great person. You could be pushing them further away from the change, you know?
Right. You've really got to be careful with that.
No question. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I really liked it. I was reading these contradictions yesterday, and some of them didn't really, relate as much. That one in particular, that one keeps me up. I'm finding the line though. Like I decided that one of the main ways for me to like kind of solve that contradiction was to just start doing what I believed was right. Basically, I just came to a realization recently, like along these terms, where if I'm presented with this kind of conundrum, where either side, I'm doing like it's two different forks in a road, both of which you could rationalize it being the right choice or the wrong one. I've kind of just given myself the liberty to, live without doubt or shame of the decision once it's made.
Yes.
Like if I do something with good intention in my heart, I'm trying to make the world a better place and trying to, do what I believe. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. If it was the wrong choice, I'll deal with the consequence. But as long as the intention is pure, I think that's how I'm going to move on.
Well, that's you being relativistic with yourself. That's giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. Other people, that's a good thing, but people, sometimes they don't do that. So they'll be like, what the hell was I thinking? And they'll beat themselves up.
Me, my whole life, until today, reading that contradiction helped me process through it. But this is very good stuff for me, just breaking new ground.
I've been talking a little bit of shit on Vitalik today just because it's all love. It's tough to understand where he's coming from. It's tough to see where everyone's coming from and to see where the pressures are coming. There's a lot of spammy shit and illegal stuff that happens on Ethereum and blockchain. And I got nothing to do with it. And he's got nothing to do with it, but he gets blamed for it more than I do. I'm sure that's real tough because it would be nicer if all these contradictions had some, not contradictions at the end, some guiding lights. Maybe that will help solve some of these contradictions. Maybe that's the path to enlightenment, is comparing what you... Yeah.
You might have just said it right there. That really, I think therein lies the path of the enlightened. I mean, I think that's kind of Vitalik expressing that. He might not be there yet. I can't understand the pressure of having that kind of, I don't know what that man's day-to-day life is, but I'm sure it's quite stressful.
Also,
thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah,
it's actually a song that I see my friend down there, Hype Man. He made a song on Vitalik. I was like, what's this song? What's it?
Oh, yeah.
Vitalik Buter, and that's how I heard about it. But
oh, nice. Hype Man, yeah, we did an NFT together.
Oh, did you?
That was my first collaboration NFT. Still for sale. For nothing. It's free. Yeah, with Hype Man.
That is crazy.
All right, we'll link you.
He's my man. Like he's my bro. Like, wow. Yeah, but thank you for having me. So I chimed in because I saw Will. So I wanted to say that, change is very difficult to obtain. And sometimes we want, like, our friends to change or other people, and we think it's best for them. But ask yourself, how hard is it to change yourself? when you try to evolve and change certain habits, it's so hard. So how do you expect if you can't change yourself to change others? It's so difficult. But like you guys were saying, we must always put ourselves or try to have compassion we never know the person in front of us, their story.
Yeah.
And that's really important. But to your point, Will, man, just do you. Like you said, when you are well and you have really good intentions, like when I go to bed at night, I'm trying to save a baby bird, guys. It fell out of its nest. Like, I feel good, and don't be fearful of consequences. I think that's where it lies. I'm not afraid of anything. Bring it. Like, because I know I always try to do good, and if it comes to consequence, I'll have to deal with them. So I'm not really afraid. I'm just afraid I'll never get an 8, but that's just about it, So just do you, be yourself, be authentic, because some of us can very see through that. We analyze stuff, we see right through. So don't play yourself, don't play others, be true, and you'll feel better about yourself. So that was just my 2 cents to Will and you, and wow, what a nice world. Hype man!
Will's thing just turned into a meditation class.
What's up, Hype Man? I didn't see you were actually in the chat. We were all talking about you. I didn't know you were here.
Yeah, what's up, homie? I just saw Will and you in here, so I just put you guys in the background.
Nice,
Will, right?
Nice.
But yeah, just got y'all in the background. Got y'all motivating me. But yeah, I was enjoying the technical chat, and of course, Princess Samurai coming here, blessing the space with her vibes. And what up to everyone else? VJ, my OG friend. We got me and VJ have a Vitalik collab, which is one of the first collabs I did when it's great before, of course, Michael Myers,
Nice.
Will. So yeah, just a whole, and I got an interview with the other Will, super fire Gucci nerd, baby. So yeah, it's just super fire. Anyways, we collab in the front, so I feel like that's the vibe of this space.
Yeah, I got one collab with Hype Man. That's my first one. I got one collab with VJ. What's up, VJ? That's inspired by my daughter. Wow, this room is lighting up.
Yo, guys, it was good to hear you talking before about the energy use. I hear Will talk about it almost every week, about how Bitcoin should be illegal and Ethereum. I think that, what this represents is the beginning of basically a new country. You're talking about it like it uses up way too much energy, but the financial system that's created by Bitcoin and by Ethereum is tremendous, and it's going to keep growing. And to say that the energy used by them is not worth the new world that they create, I think is just kind of, it's not looking at, I know you look at the big picture.
Got it. No, I'm agree with you. Let me walk back my statement. Let me add a disclaimer there. Eric is saying there's a lot of value here. Things that have value have cost. So we got to look at this holistically. So let me walk back. When I say Ethereum should be illegal and Bitcoin should be illegal, let me walk that back. What I should say is countries should see the threat and countries should not see the holistic value of Bitcoin. And therefore countries probably will make it illegal. There might be a value to you and me and to society and to people, but entrenched government interests are not society and people. They're their own entities. The anarchism of not being a country is threatening to the countries themselves, and the countries are the ones that make the rules. Therefore, the countries don't see that value. I see a lot of emojis going back and forth here.
That makes a ton of sense.
But I think the threat or the claimed threat of anarchy that cryptocurrencies can bring to governments will be the same, even is on a different proof of something that doesn't require as much electricity.
Got it. Okay. So why make proof of work illegal when every cryptocurrency, regardless, is the culprit promoting anarchy?
Well, yeah, I think the core issue that governments will see, whether they talk about it or not, is losing control of their monetary systems, which is going to happen, regardless. The energy thing is just kind of an easy argument to make to people right now.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to change. Maybe not Ethereum, maybe not Bitcoin. They'll go into something else, and I don't think it's going to be called crypto or anything. Like even crypto, they're calling it financial transitional, blah blah. Like it's changing, and I think it's going to be like worldwide, and it's going to be like a one currency thing for everybody. Hype man, Will, we love you. Will, don't go, Will.
I wish I didn't have to, but listen, y'all, I'll say this before I do leave. We got one life, and I know we're talking about blockchain and community service. So I feel like it applies. Really make sure you're taking care of yourselves. We get one experience to enjoy this process. We get one experience in this vessel that we call a body. So while you get that chance, make sure that you're doing the absolute most to enjoy your time while you have it, and that you're doing your most not to be impacting anyone else's joy either. So enjoy yourselves. You're the best. You're uniquely great in every way, and you can do literally anything you set your mind to. So go ahead and do it. I love you guys. Let's go.
The regulations that are coming down the pike here around reporting of emissions is what's going to these companies, because in Europe now, companies are having to report their scope 3 emissions, which means that banks which say that they have no emissions because they operate these offices with 7 people in them, they're going to have to start reporting the fact that 20% of their capital is being allocated to the gas and oil industry.
Yeah, scope 3 is huge.
Yeah, so there has to be a way, you have to approach it understanding all these variables and reverse engineer a path that kind of solves for the problems. And I don't know, I think there's big opportunities in the Web3 world for renewables, and it's kind of the perfect storm of policy and people and scared.
Quick question, because I just had this thought about when we're talking about upgrading ETH or just building something and once it works to leave it, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like Bitcoin works, so why do we need to keep tinkering and messing with a chain that was set up? One of the things which I've noticed on Reddit or sometimes Bitcoin, some points in the Bitcoin community discussion will be when quantum computers are introduced, or as we see technological advances that may break the encryption or the cryptography upon which the crypto is based, isn't that, for example, a potential point where there will have to be an update or a focus? Because again, we just brute force the cryptography at that point, and at which point, computers and the processing power of computers is what is Moore's law or whatever. So it's is that not an issue?
This is a great point. One of the basic primitives of Web3 is the security of 256 bits of encryption on elliptic curves. That's a specific assumption. So you're right. The entire strength of this system is predicated on that. And also this week, NSA promises that there's no backdoors in any of the encryption that we're using for Bitcoin or Ethereum. They say these things once in a while, but this is the most explicit time that they've said it. I have a very slight history with the NSA, but I believe them in this instance. They've worked with NIST. They did backdoor NIST and they did backdoor RSA. They've done a lot of backdoors. The good thing about Bitcoin and Ethereum is if it is backdoored, it'll be very easy for us to know. We'll quickly be able to see this thing if it happens. It's not really worth investing in that. The type of, even with quantum computers, which for the past 20 years have always been 10 years out, we've made zero progress on quantum computing in the past 20, 30 years. Even with IBM, even with NSA, there's no progress on these things. It's really just voodoo magic. Somebody had to decide to use 256 bits when they made Bitcoin and these other things. 256 was chosen for a good reason. It was chosen to last for decades. And I know Enigma was supposed to last, from World War with Germany, Enigma, that was supposed to last for decades too, and that didn't. That was hacked. Actually, was Enigma hacked or was it used improperly? I'm going to say Enigma was not hacked. So Enigma, the telegraph machine, that was not hacked. I don't see any imminent threats in the next 10 years plus on any of the things we're using here. But it's important to think about these things long term, like you're saying. Obviously, crypto would be the first place we would see it because there's more money hacking crypto than there is spoofing a website connection, and it would cost the same amount. And we're talking, a lot of money to execute one attack against any of these things. So obviously it would hit crypto first. But when we get close, then I think we can be reactive on that.